everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Shannon and as you can tell by the title of this video, today I'm bringing you guys my reading vlog of A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. This lovely parcel arrived for me today and it can only be one thing, so without further ado, let's just unbox this. There she is! Wow, this book is huge. Okay, so this is 750 pages. Look at the size of that. To be honest, I don't actually hate the cover as much as I thought I was going to. I do prefer the old style of covers, which I have all of the books in, but I thought I was going to hate it more, which is kind of a nice surprise. Nothing under the dust jacket, but we do have these stunning end pages. And I actually know nothing about this book. All I know is that it's a book following Nesta and Cassian, so I will just read the synopsis for you just so we're all aware of what the book is actually about. I will just mention quickly though, the vlog part of this video is going to be spoiler free, but then there is going to be a spoilery review of this book at the end. Don't worry, I will be giving you a warning when I do go into spoilers, but yeah, just so you're aware, that's how I've decided to set this video out. I basically put up a poll on Twitter asking if you wanted a spoilery review or a non-spoilery review, and it was almost 50-50 I think, so I've decided to do it that way just to make everyone happy. But yeah, let me just read you what it says on here. So it says, Nesta Archeron has always been prickly, proud, swift to anger and slow to forgive, and since the war, since being made high fae against her will, she struggled to forget the horrors she endured and find a place for herself within the strange and deadly night courts. The person who ignites her temper more than any other is Cassian, the battle-scarred winged warrior who is there at Nesta's every turn. But her temper isn't the only thing Cassian ignites, and when they are forced to train in battle together, sparks become flame. As the threat of war casts its shadow over them once again, Nesta and Cassian must fight monsters from within and without if they are to stand a chance of halting the enemies of their courts. But the ultimate risk will be searching for acceptance and healing in each other's arms. Oh! I cannot wait for this book, guys. I've never really been a massive fan of Nesta. I think in the last book I respected her a lot more, but I don't think I will ever forgive her for the way that she treated Feyre in the first book, because that was just absolutely horrible and no one should be treated like that. I do love Cassian though, I always have, and so I'm really excited to see him open up a lot more in this book. I'm excited to see him and Nesta together and how they interact, because I feel like it's just going to be absolute chaos, but I'm very, very excited for it. I am going to be diving into this one as soon as I finish this clip. I do have a live show at 2:30 today. It's currently 2:20, so I definitely need to get a move on. But yeah, I'm hoping that I can read a really good chunk of this book during those live sprints. I'm not sure how often I'll update you guys, especially because the vlog section of this is going to be non-spoilery. I might do it every 100 pages or so. I might do it if something big happens and I want to get my reaction. I'm not too sure yet, but I hope you enjoy this video either way. I am going to end this clip here though, because I do need to set up for the live show and I just really want to dive into this book as soon as possible. So yeah, the next time I talk to you guys, I'm hoping to have made a good dent in this and I can update you guys on my thoughts so far. So I haven't actually updated you in a while. It's currently Friday now, and I think the first clip that I filmed for this was actually on Tuesday, so sorry about that, guys. I have actually made it to page 327 now, so I've read this chunk and I have this chunk still to go. I am still under halfway though, so can't quite see the finish line just yet, but I thought it'd be best to sit down now and update you guys on my thoughts. I have actually been reading this during my live sprints this week, and I am currently hosting a live show as well as we speak with Karis from Karis's Corner, but I have turned my camera off and muted myself so that I can film this clip for you guys, because like I said, I haven't updated you in a while and I thought before I dive into this book again, I just want to get my thoughts out to you. Otherwise I'm going to leave it way too long before I actually update you guys and I will probably end up scrapping this vlog. So yeah, I'm finally getting around to telling you about my thoughts on the book so far, and they are very, very positive. I'm really enjoying this one so far. It's such an easy world just to fall back into, and so diving into this book just felt really natural, even though I feel like I don't remember a lot of the events of the last 4 books as well as I should. I didn't want to reread read them before this came out because I genuinely don't have the time at the minute, which is a bit of a shame because I would have loved to do that. And so because of that, I was a bit apprehensive about diving into this one, just for the fact that I probably don't remember as much as I'd like. Honestly though, I feel like that's not an issue. There are some things that have popped up in here where I'm like, I don't remember that happening, but it doesn't affect the story in any way. It doesn't affect my understanding of what's going on. And I am really glad that that's the way it's gone, because yeah, I was very scared that I would be a little bit lost at the start of this book, considering the fact that we are focusing on different characters now. But I dove straight into it. After the first chapter, I was absolutely hooked. And yeah, all I want to do now is sit down and read. I have actually been writing some notes about this book, but most of them are spoilery. So now I'm thinking I don't know what I can talk about without spoiling. I'm guessing if you're watching this, you've already read the first 4 books. If you haven't, you probably shouldn't be watching this, because I am going to refer back to what has been going on and how the events of this book play into that. So yeah, definitely click off if you haven't read that and don't want to be spoiled. Like I said at the start of this video, this book does follow Nesta and Cassian as opposed to Feyre and Rhys, and I was a bit apprehensive diving into it because Nesta is definitely not my favourite character. I grew to like her a bit more in the last book, but overall I just wasn't really too bothered about her. However, seeing her in this book, seeing how the events of the last war have impacted her, is kind of breaking my heart. I also hate the fact that she feels very cut off from everyone. Of course, we all deal with trauma differently, and the way Nesta's dealing with it at the start of this book is not considered to be a good coping mechanism by the rest of the inner circle. And so she's trying to deal with the events of the war and the repercussions of that war in a specific way to her, but I feel like the other people don't really get why she's doing all these things. Obviously they know that she's dealing with a lot of trauma and they are ultimately trying to help her, but I feel like the way they go about it at the start of this book was kind of bad in a way, and a lot more damaging, I think, than if they would have tackled it in a different way. I'm not sure if I'm getting my thoughts across here properly, but like I said, trying not to spoil it. I feel like I can talk about the next thing quite freely with you because it does say this in the synopsis, but because of Nesta's behaviour and the things that she does to cope with this trauma, the inner circle give her an ultimatum. They can either drop her off in the middle of the human lands and just let her fend for herself and essentially banish her from the realm of the Fae, or Nesta can go with Cassian to the House of Wind to train with him and to make herself better. Nesta obviously doesn't like this. I feel like a lot of her choices have been taken away from her and people are deciding what is good for her without really knowing what is good for her in a way. And so of course she's reluctant to go. She feels like they are controlling her life and that she has no say in what she does. But eventually she does decide to go with Cassian because obviously it's a better alternative than being dumped in the middle of the human lands. I absolutely love Nesta and Cassian together. I feel like they rile each other up so much. It's just so fun to read. I feel like they're both very similar, and so trying to put them in a room together and trying to get them to work together and to come to terms with what is going on is not an easy thing. They're both kind of hot-tempered and they both think that they're the ones in the right, and so putting those two characters in an isolated place, there's bound to be some sort of conflict. Also, I have just made a little note because this just made me laugh so much. In this book, Cassian calls Nesta Ness, and in one part Nesta literally tells him, "Don't call me Ness," and all I could think about is that scene from Twilight where Bella screams at Jacob, "You named my daughter after the Loch Ness Monster?" I just burst into laughter at that point. It's not relevant at all, but I just could not stop laughing. I found it so funny. I'm not sure if that's what Sarah J Maas was trying to do, probably not, but that was the first thing that came to mind, and now every time he calls her Ness, I just remember that scene from Twilight and it just makes me want to laugh all over again. And now that I've said that out loud and you've been watching this, I feel like every time you read this book now you're going to be thinking of the same thing, so sorry about that, but there's no way that I'm the only one that thought of that scene from Twilight. Anyway, getting back to the book, I thought ACOSF was steamy. This one is probably worse. Worse in the way that there's so much more smut. I am kind of living for it, but because I'm reading this mainly on some live shows, I feel like I just have to have the most amazing poker face. A lot of stuff goes down in this book. The scenes are a lot more descriptive than what they have been in previous books, so definitely be aware of that going into this. The smut is definitely ramped up. I was expecting it in a way, but I wasn't at the same time. Like, I know that this series is new adult, and so I expected it, but almost straight away there's like a sex scene, and I loved it, but I was like, whoa, I did not expect that. Honestly, I feel like it's just gonna get smuttier and smuttier, so I am kind of kicking myself for reading this on a live show once again tonight, but I really do want to get through a good chunk of the book. I definitely need to finish it before the new week, so this is very high priority, and honestly I just cannot wait to dive back into it. I don't know if you can see as well, but I have tabbed a few things. I wasn't planning on tabbing this, but some things just stood out to me and I just wanted to make a note. One of them is a really lovely quote, and I don't think it's a spoiler, so I am going to read it out to you. It's more of a passage really than a quote, but it's just so beautiful. And so it says, Nesta had once delighted in the title, had done her best to fulfill its promise, indulging in a dazzling life that had melted away as soon as the debtors swept in and her so-called friends had revealed themselves to be nothing more than envious cowards wearing smiling masks. Not one of them had offered to help save the Archeron family from poverty. They had thrown them all, mere children and a crumbling man, to the wolves. So Nesta had become a wolf, armed herself with invisible teeth and claws and learned to strike faster, deeper, more lethally. Had relished it. But when the time came to put away the wolf, she found it had devoured her too. And I feel like that is the perfect way to describe Nesta. I feel like she definitely could have been nicer to Feyre in the previous books. She did idly stand by and let Feyre go and hunt for food for the family when they were in poverty. She didn't raise a finger to help do anything. And so for that I will always feel some sort of anger towards her, because she is the older sister. She should be helping out everyone and making sure that the family is taken care of, but she didn't. She passed it all on to Feyre. But seeing how everything affected her personally and seeing how she learned to deal with everything, it just makes you realise how cold-hearted she's become. Obviously they had a lot of money when they were younger, but as soon as that money was spent and they didn't have it anymore, people just abandoned them. Their father was obviously a cripple and so he couldn't work or anything, and people just seemed to give up on them and just didn't want to help and treated them awfully basically. And so when I read that passage and read how she described it, I definitely did sympathise with Nesta. It doesn't excuse the fact that she has been horrible to people and that she does tend to lock people out and keep a distance, but I feel like that's what this trilogy is going to do. It's going to show you why she behaves like that, and hopefully we will see her overcome this coldness. I'm definitely seeing parts of her that I really like throughout this book so far. She does have a kind heart, even though she puts up this facade of being horrible and nasty, and so I'm very excited to go on this journey with her and to see how she develops by the end. Considering I'm 327 pages in, not a lot has happened. I feel like because we are focusing on different characters now, there's a lot more build-up needed. The last trilogy wrapped up really nicely and now there's a new threat and people need to get prepared for that, and I feel like that's why I haven't been updating you, because even though I've read a load of pages, there hasn't really been that much to say. But this last chapter that I read left off on such a cliffhanger. Basically I was reading this last night. India was actually hosting some live reading sprints and I decided to join, and I got about 100 pages read I think, but they did go on until about 12:30 in the morning I believe, and so I stayed up till 1 o'clock reading this book, and I finished that chapter and I really wanted to carry on because I need to know what is happening, but because it was 1 o'clock in the morning I decided that I would just put it down and carry on in the morning. I never picked it up this morning because I had some uni work to do, and so yeah, I'm very excited to just sit down now and continue reading and find out what's going on, because yeah, that was crazy. I'm gonna finish this clip off here. I'm sorry if it's very rambly. Like I said, I've not updated you, so I have a lot of thoughts but no way to present them in a coherent way. Hopefully the next clip will be a little bit better. I do feel like I'll have a lot more to talk about, so for now I'm gonna leave you here and I will update you once again when I've made a bit more progress.
Yeah, it's a fast read though, but there's actually so many like smutty scenes in here and I feel so weird reading it on time. My face is just like
I think someone said in the comments, I can tell you're liking your book, so maybe that was maybe that was those bits.
Oh my god, that is so funny. I can't even see where that is yet. This is the one. I can tell you're liking your book. I keep glancing up to see you smiling at it. Yeah.
Wow, this book is smutty. I have been reading this on 3 live shows now, and every single live show there have been numerous sex scenes, and I've had to keep a straight face throughout all of that. Some people have actually commented during a live saying that I must be enjoying my book because I'm like smiling away to myself. It's the smut scenes. I've actually made really good progress in this book now. I'm on page 454, so over halfway. According to Goodreads, I'm about 60% of the way through now. I do also have another live show this afternoon with Jo, Cece, Barb and Emily, so hopefully I will power through this one even more. Again, I thought it would be better to update you guys before the live show because I will just want to fly through this. I don't think I'll want to stop. But yeah, if you thought A Court of Mist and Fury was very sexual, this one ramped it up 100%. I don't want to say much more because I don't want to spoil you guys, but just know, very intense sex scenes, very graphic. Sarah J Maas holds nothing back. It's very descriptive. So if you'd be uncomfortable reading that, then I'd probably advise you to stay away from this one. I don't tend to read smutty books, so it did take me a while to sort of fall into the story and just accept it as part of the story. It does make it feel a lot more real because I feel like what is happening would happen in real life. Maybe not to this extent, but if we're assuming that this is how the Fae would live, then it makes sense. smuts. But yeah, I'm okay with it because it is a fantasy book with these romantic elements in it and the smuts. So there are a lot of different things to focus on. It's not just a smutty read. But yeah, if you would be uncomfortable reading that, I would definitely recommend you not pick this book up. I feel like every other chapter there's some sort of sexual innuendo or there's some sort of sex scene, and it's a really good thing that I like these characters and I want these characters to end up being together. And again, it is relevant to their development. I feel like if it was just thrown in there for the sake of it, I probably wouldn't enjoy it. But because it's kind of central to these characters' need to feel something, I feel like the sex scenes represent that really well. You know, both characters have dealt with loss, they've dealt with pain and grief and trauma in their own way, and to find each other and to take comfort in each other, I think it's actually quite beautiful, even though, like I said, the sex scenes have ramped up quite a bit. Plot-wise as well, we are definitely moving forward with this. It's getting so much more interesting now. I think I said in my last clip that the majority of the book so far had been resolving what had happened before and then building up to the main plot of this trilogy. I'd say we've pretty much reached that now. We've had our first sort of escapade to retrieve something that they need. That scene, by the way, was absolutely crazy. I got so worked up reading it and I honestly felt so scared for the characters involved. The setting as well was just so dark and eerie and disgusting. It definitely reminded me of the dead marshes from The Lord of the Rings, so if you know that scene, you probably know what I'm talking about in this book. Again, trying not to spoil anything, which is really difficult, but basically different characters have been given different tasks and something happened to one or two characters during a particular task that sort of brought up new revelations about the characters. It's so hard to talk about this without spoiling, but that was such a good scene. I feel like every single character that was involved needed to be there, and that is definitely how they would have reacted as well. It's not anything far-fetched, it's not unbelievable, and I think Sarah J Maas has finally found her style of writing. I feel like Throne of Glass was obviously amazing. I really enjoyed that series, but the writing isn't the best. I really enjoyed the first half of this series. ACOMAF was definitely my favourite book, and there were a lot of plot points in ACOA that weren't my favourite. Crescent City was just pure perfection, and now we've moved on to this one, which again, so far, is just absolutely perfect for me. I'm not sure when I'll update you next. Like I said, I'm over 450 pages through now, so I think I've got about 300 pages left. I might end up updating you guys after my live show. I'm not sure how many pages I'll manage to get read, hopefully over 100 at least. And then, like I said, I feel like a lot of stuff is going to happen now in these last 300 pages that I will be able to talk about a lot easier, and I'll be able to sort of give you my reaction to what's going on. To be honest though, if something crazy does happen, I might pick up my camera during the live. We will see. At this current point in the book, I have no idea how it's going to end. I have no idea what's going to be carried on throughout the whole series and what's going to be wrapped up in this first book. I feel like it's going to be a massive cliffhanger, which I don't know if I'm ready for, but I feel like now I'm in that mood where all I want to do is sit down, power through this book and finish it out. I'm quite nervous though, because everyone on this live is going to want to see my reactions to this, and I feel like everyone will be looking at me during the sprints to see what my face is doing, if I'm reading some steamy scenes. So yeah, I'm kind of embarrassed about that, but to be honest, I've passed the point of caring now. I just want to know what happens, and if there are more sex scenes, then I will gladly take them. Tonight's the night, guys. I'm finally gonna sit down and finish A Court of Silver Flames. I don't think I'm ready for this, but I'm up to the last part now. I'm on part 4, which is called Ataraxia, and I'm extremely scared. Where we're at now, things are really good, and knowing Sarah J Maas, I know that these last 100 pages are going to rip out my heart. It's either going to end on a massive cliffhanger or something big is going to happen to some characters or something like that. I am just speculating here. I don't actually know what's going to happen, but it is just too good for everyone right now, so it can only get worse from here. Also, looking at myself, I look like a ghost. Please excuse that. I've not been sleeping well recently, and I've had a load of uni work to do, which is why I am still currently reading this book. I did want to finish it out before the weekend, but that didn't happen. Like I said, I've had uni work to do. I have submitted an essay today, and that is why I've decided to sit down tonight and dedicate a good chunk of time to finishing off this book. I'm not going to ramble on for too long in this clip for you guys. To be honest, I just want to dive in and see what happens. I did actually manage to read 200 pages of this book on my sprints at the weekend, so that was really, really good, but I didn't read anything yesterday, which was Sunday, and I haven't stopped thinking about this all throughout today. So yeah, I'm gonna sit down now. I'm not actually sure if there are any live sprints going on. If there are, I will put some on. If not, I'll probably just put ASMR rooms on and sit here and power through. But yeah, I did just want to give you guys a quick update before I actually finish the book. I'm so nervous to read these last 100 pages, but I'm gonna force myself to sit down now and just get on with it, because if I put it off any longer, I'm going to drive myself absolutely crazy. literally crying. I don't know if you can tell. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. What the hell? What is happening? Oh my days. Oh my gosh. Right, what is happening? Oh no! It got happy for a second and now it's not. Oh, I can't deal with this. I can't deal with this. I can't deal with this. Can you actually see? Look at this state. Look at these tears. Oh my gosh. I'm way too scared for this. Oh my god, there's only 20 pages left. This is the face of someone who has just experienced a very emotional roller coaster. I'm not okay. These last 100 pages have literally ripped me apart and slowly put me back together again. I cannot believe that I'm actually crying right now. I never cry in books, but I feel so invested in this and so connected to the characters that it is affecting me. And oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I'm still not even done. I've still got like 15 pages left, so it could all go to crap again, but we'll see. Wow. That was such a wild ride. Those last 100 pages. I knew stuff was gonna happen, but I didn't know what or how, and I didn't expect that. But I love this so much. Wow, okay, let me try and get myself together because I don't want to carry the non-spoiler section over to tomorrow. I'm going to sit down tonight, gather my thoughts, and then give you guys my spoilery review in the morning. But this is one of my all-time favourite books now. This could be a standalone. I don't know how Sarah J Maas is going to stretch it out into more books. This was absolute perfection and it broke me, to be honest with you. I didn't think it would. Honestly, diving into this one, I thought it would just be a fast, fun read, and it's definitely not that. You get so attached to these characters, the bonds in here and the friendships. Oh my goodness, it's just absolutely brilliant. And wow, this had such a massive effect on me. As you can see, I still have tears in my eyes. Also, I ended up tabbing this one quite a bit, even though at the start of this I had no real intention of tabbing it, and I feel like tomorrow I'm gonna have a lot to say, but for now all I can say is that this book is absolutely phenomenal. I'm so happy that I took my time with this and that I didn't rush to finish it in 2 days. I felt like because I took my time with it, everything that happened had more of an impact on me because I had time to sit down and reflect on what had happened, and then when something else happened I felt it more because of that. To see how far Nesta has come in this book, I can't even begin to describe. She is so strong, she's so loyal, and honestly I wish we all had someone like Nesta in our lives. Maybe not at the start of this when she's cussing at everyone and trying to keep everyone out of her life, but honestly guys, Nesta is now one of my favourite characters. There we are, I said it. I know I said at the start of this vlog that I would never forgive her for the way she treated Feyre. I still don't in a way, because that was awful, but again, her progression from then to now and the reasoning behind why she did everything that she did all comes together, makes sense, and you see Nesta at her core, and this is what that book is. And oh my gosh, it's just absolutely beautiful. I really hope you enjoyed seeing my reaction to this book. I definitely didn't think it was going to be as intense as it was. I've had so much fun reading this book, so much fun reading it on the lives with you guys. You guys knew when I was reading those smutty scenes, but honestly by the end I didn't care because I was just so invested. I was loving every single page and I really did not want it to stop. So yeah, thank you guys so much for coming on this wild journey with me. I'm so glad that I decided to vlog my experience reading this, because I know I will be looking back at this in the future when the next book comes out and I will be laughing at my reactions, because like I said, it's not like me to cry in books at all. Normally you get a tear out of me, if that, and in this one, as you saw, I was crying. I am going to end this clip here though. Again, thank you so much for watching if you've watched this far. I really hope my vlog inspired you to pick up this book if you haven't, and if you have, I hope that it also gave you some support if you're feeling very emotional after reading this book, because I feel you. Don't forget that the next clip is going to be a spoiler-filled review, and so if you haven't read the book then please don't watch that, because I really don't want you to be spoiled. But I'm hoping that when you do read this you will come back and watch the spoilery review and discuss your thoughts with me in the comments. It's now the next morning, and as you guys know, last night I did manage to finish A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J Maas. Honestly, it was such a wild ride. I didn't expect to feel the things I felt to that extent. You saw what the ending of this book did to me, and today I've woken up with a massive headache, and it's because I was so emotional reading this book. Just to let you guys know, from this point onwards I am going to be talking about spoilers, so if you don't want to know any, then please click off this video now and come back once you've read the book. Honestly, I have no idea where to start with this. I feel like there are so many moments that I want to talk about and discuss, but I know that this video is already very long and I don't want to make it too much longer. First off, can we please just talk about Cassian and Nesta? They are absolute goals. I love them both so much. Of course, we got a revelation close to the end of this book that they are in fact mates, which I don't know how I feel about, because Sarah J Maas kept saying in the ACOSF trilogy how rare it was to find your mate, and Feyre has found hers straight away, and now Nesta has also kind of found hers straight away. It's just taken her that little bit longer to accept it, so in terms of rarity, kind of unbelievable, but honestly I wouldn't have it any other way. They are made for each other, and I'm so glad that it's actually set in stone now that they are mates. Saying that though, I feel like there's going to be some sort of issue with that going forward, because as we know with Rhys and Feyre's relationship, if one of them is injured or if they get kidnapped or whatever, everything turns into absolute chaos, because the males are very territorial, they want to protect their mates at all costs, and so moving forward I feel like Cassian's going to be even more overprotective of Nesta, and so if something were to happen to her or to him, I feel like Nesta would kick someone's ass if something happened to him. It's just going to be absolute chaos, so I'm intrigued to see where it goes from here. I'm intrigued to see how accepting the mating bond changes them both, because obviously it's going to have an effect on both of them. And yeah, I kind of squealed when it was revealed. So basically they're having a moment and Nesta's saying that they can't be like Rhys and Feyre because they're both mates, and they aren't, and then obviously Cassian gets angry and he's basically confronting her about it and being like, are you that blind? Like, haven't you felt it? And she's like, felt what? And he's like, seriously? And she's like, yeah, what? And he literally goes, I am your mate for F's sakes. You are my mate. Why are you still fighting it? And then for Nesta it says, she let the truth, voiced at last, wash over her. I also love that Nesta is being very strong-headed about it till the last moment as well. It's very much true of her character, and again, it's the one last thing that solidifies the fact that she is now Fae and not human, because obviously humans don't have mates, they just fall in love and get married and settle down with whoever they choose. But obviously the mating bond is a very different thing in the Fae world, and so by accepting this mating bond, she is finally turning her back on her humanity and is embracing herself as Fae. Next up, I feel like I'm going to talk about Feyre, because once again, Sarah J Maas keeps telling us how rare things are in the Fae world, and yet Feyre manages to do everything. So not only has she found a mate, which is rare in itself, she is now pregnant, which is extremely rare. I must have been blind as anything though, because I did not catch on at all, even with Rhys and his shield. It just flew over my head. I thought he was practicing for combat or whatever. But yeah, in the scene when it's revealed, they tell Nesta that she has to do something, and Nesta's sort of confrontational about it, as she is, and she basically turns around to them and is like, well, well, why don't you just do it? And Feyre says, I can't risk it. Why? Nesta snapped. Because I'm pregnant. I am glad though, because it's just such a nice moment. You see just how much joy this news brings to everyone, and it turns out that Rhys has been keeping this shield around Feyre because when a female is pregnant, people can sense it. Like, there's this smell about you that sort of gives away that you're pregnant, and so Rhys's shield kept everyone from figuring that out. So I was really excited when that was revealed, but then a lot of the subplot of this book is Rhys finding out that the baby is going to have wings, which is fine, like that's what everyone wanted, but it's the fact that Feyre doesn't possess a body that allows her to birth a baby with wings. And so if she were to give birth to this baby, there's a chance that both of them would die, because the baby could get stuck and Feyre would die from that, or they'd have to try and cut the baby out of her stomach and then they'd both die from that because they just can't survive it. So throughout this book we see Rhys dealing with that and trying to find any way to prevent that. For some reason though, he doesn't tell Feyre, which I kind of get because you don't want to worry her, but then again, you are literally soulmates. You share everything together, you literally speak to each other through your minds. Like, how can you keep something that major hidden from her after all you've been through? She deserves to know what would happen to her and her own body and her own child if this pregnancy were to go south. And yeah, I just wasn't too keen on that, to be fair. I don't like the fact that they kept that from her, and I am glad in a way that Nesta was the one to tell her that, even if Nesta did say it more out of spite than anything else. Nesta was the only person to actually tell Feyre the truth, and yeah, I just didn't get how everyone could have known but just not told her, because it just kind of goes against everything that the Night Court and the Inner Circle stand for. Staying on track with the pregnancy thing though, we do see Feyre going into labour at the end of this book and it's not looking good, but Nesta manages to call all three of these magical objects that they've been hunting to herself, and she is actually able to stop time. And so she does that and she goes to Feyre and she's just saying over and over again, if you let Feyre live, I will give back what I took from the cauldron. And I don't actually know what happens, but it seems like there's this magic that grants that to her, but it also doesn't take all the cauldron's power from Nesta. It leaves her with a little bit of power left, I believe. That wasn't too clear, but I'm guessing that's what it was, because it does say that a hand stopped her from giving over too much of her power. And so Nesta was actually able to use this magic to make sure that Feyre was able to birth this child. She basically changed Feyre's body to allow it to be able to birth a baby with wings properly, and she also does that to herself for when she and Cassian want to have kids, which, oh my gosh, I loved that so much, and you could tell how happy Cassian was with that. All throughout this book, since Feyre announced that she was pregnant, you've seen how Cassian has been thinking about this child and has been very excited for it, and how he would literally do anything to have a mate and a child, and oh, the fact that he could possibly have that now is just absolutely brilliant, and I love it so much. The only thing that I didn't like about that scene is that once again the focus was on Feyre, and this is meant to be a book about Nesta, and obviously we see her overcome everything that she's been battling enough to settle her differences with everyone, apologise for the wrongs that she's committed, and ultimately save Feyre. However, the fact that she basically won this Illyrian blood right that is almost impossible to win is just brushed over because Feyre is giving birth, and we don't get to see Nesta after that and see her being congratulated for it or seeing anything like that. Nesta is taken out of there and then Feyre is giving birth, and so the attention shifts to her once again. I would have loved a little bit more time after the blood right to see how it affected all the different characters. Obviously Emery and Gwyn were in there with her and they went through a lot themselves, but Nesta taking that final stand at the end and letting Gwyn and Emery win this thing and ultimately sacrificing herself was just such a strong moment, and it was the peak of her character development, I think. I just feel like we should have had more time to reflect on that and to see the effects of that. Saying that though, I loved the whole blood right thing. I love that we got to see characters in that environment, because obviously up until now Rhys, Cassian and Asriel have all spoken about the blood right, but we haven't actually seen it, and so to see what that's all about and the brutality behind it firsthand is just kind of terrifying. It definitely reminded me of the Hunger Games, where obviously a group of kids get shoved into one arena and they have to fight to the death in order to win. That is very much what that is. I love the fact that the girls' charm bracelets led them to one another. Obviously when they had that sleepover and they created charms for each other, Nesta put her magic into them, and I have actually actually just found the quote, so I will read it out to you. They worked in music-filled companionship, idle chatter bouncing between them, Emery and Gwyn occasionally laughing at Nesta's awful workmanship. Now, Gwyn said, when they were halfway through, will you make wishes for each other? She reached for one of the tiny coins. I'll just hold this in my hand, think of something for Emery, and wait, Nesta said, catching Gwyn's hand before it could touch the charm. Let me. Her friends regarded her curiously, and Nesta swallowed. Let me make a wish for all of us, she explained, gathering the 3 charms. A small gift for the friends who had become like sisters. A chosen family, like the one Feyre had found for herself. Nesta squeezed the charms in her palm, closing her eyes, and said, I wish for us to have the courage to go out into the world when we are ready, but to always be able to find our way back to each other, no matter what. Gwyn and Emery cheered at that, and when Nesta opened her eyes, palm unfurling, she could have sworn the coins glowed faintly. Obviously, we know that they did in fact glow. Nesta put some of her powers into those charms, and so when they were all dropped into the blood rites, the charms led them back to each other, because that's what Nesta wished them to do, which I loved that so much. One of my favourite parts of this book was the friendship between Nesta, Emery and Gwyn. It was just so wholesome. They've all struggled in their own way, and again, at the end of the blood rite, they all sort of lay themselves bare in front of the others, and I thought that was such a beautiful moment. And again, the fact that Nesta then sacrificed herself for Emery and Gwyn to be able to win the blood rite was just absolutely beautiful, and it's just one of my favourite things about this book. Saying that though, I did have an issue with the characters in the blood rite. Obviously, Nesta has been training. That is the main plot of this book, is that she has to go and train with Cassian in order to better herself, and so she does that, and she invites Gwyn and Emery to join her, which they do, but I think they've only had a few months to practice everything and go over everything and learn everything, whereas Cassian says that he had to train for the blood rite for years. He wasn't allowed to use a proper sword until about 7 years into his training, and so the fact that these 3 girls have been training for a few months, they get dropped into the blood rite and they win. It's a little bit unbelievable, but because of the circumstance behind everything and because of the journey that they've been on, I kind of didn't mind it. I let it be something that gets brushed over, but yeah, I did want to point that out, that again, a little bit unbelievable considering the training that Asriel, Cassian and Rhys went through to win the blood rite, but that was definitely one of my favourite parts of this book. It was so interesting, and I'm so glad we got to see more of it. Honestly, I don't really know what else to say. I felt like nothing really happened in this book. I think I said in one of the first clips that in the first 300 pages that I read, nothing really happened. This book is definitely more about the characters and the character development and the character relationships rather than an actual plot. And I feel like you can tell that by my tabs, because we have barely any tabs for the first half of the book, and then from halfway onwards we have loads. Obviously, the structure of a novel, that tends to be how it goes. The beginning is quite slow and then the second half picks up a bit. I do think that this book ended very quickly. It was like everything was thrown into that last 100 pages, as you could see by my very emotional reaction. I just didn't know how to handle everything because so much happened. I felt like it could have been spread out a bit. We had the blood rite, then we have Emery and Gwyn winning the blood rite, Cassian trying to attack Nesta, both of them overcoming that and killing the queen. We have Feyre going into labour and basically almost dying. We have Nesta saving her, and then we have a mating ceremony occurring for Nesta and Cassian. There's a lot in that last 100 pages, and I wish, like I said, that we had a little bit more time for each of those sections just to see how it would all play out. You don't really have time to process anything that's going on because it's literally like bang bang bang. I honestly don't know what's happening with this series now. I don't know if we continue to follow Nesta and Cassian in the next books, if we're going to follow different characters, if there are going to be more books, because I genuinely have no idea. This could definitely work as a standalone, and so I'm very intrigued to see where Sarah J Maas goes from here. But ultimately, I love this book so much. I did end up giving it 5 stars. I feel like it's definitely up there with ACoMAF in terms of being a favourite book for me, and I'm so glad that I read it and I vlogged my experience for you guys because it was an absolute wild ride. I am going to finish out this video here though, because like I said, this video is long. I don't want it to go on for too much longer, and I feel like I have kind of said all that I want to say about this at this point. Ideally, I would have liked a bit more time to sit down and reflect on this book, but this vlog is actually going up today, and so I needed to sit down and film this little spoilery review for you. If you made it this far into the video, please leave the fire emoji down below for me. I feel like that perfectly symbolises this book. Also, if you want to discuss anything further with me, then please leave it down in the comments. Please don't spoil anything for anyone. The start of this video is obviously a non-spoiler section, and so if people come and watch the non-spoiler bit and see your spoilers in the comments, it's not going to be nice for them. So yeah, please keep the comment section spoiler free, but if you do want to chat with me a bit more about this book, then let me know down below and I will DM you. Whilst you're down there, don't forget to click the like button if you liked this video, as well as the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content from me. Thank you so much for watching this video and for coming on this crazy journey with me. I hope you enjoyed seeing my reaction to this. You guys truly do mean the world to me, and I will see you soon in my next video. Goodbye!